Hello everybody, and a very, very warm welcome to our Royal Bank Business Builder Workshop, Writing a Great 60-Second Pitch. A very happy Global Entrepreneurship Week to everybody that's watching this, or International Trade Week, whichever one that you're celebrating, or maybe both. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm really looking forward to this session, taking you through how to write, structure, and deliver a great 60-second pitch. And I'm really happy to be able to tell you about our 10K challenge, where one individual is going to get their hands on £10,000 funding for their business as well. So thank you for joining us, whether it's Monday and you're watching this, whether it is Friday and you are watching this. I hope you had a great week. You've learned some new stuff, and you've had a chance to meet and socialize with some great people as well. So let's make a start. Let's dive straight in. As we said, we're going to be looking at how to write a great 60-second pitch, a source of anxiety for so many people, completely justifiably. I certainly remember when I had my business, writing or even the thought of delivering a 60-second pitch would just see all of the colour drain from my face, and a source of fear would set in 2 or 3 days before. And so if that feels like you, I completely sympathise. But as we go through today's session, it's my sincere hope that will banish some of those demons and give you the confidence to concisely write that 60-second pitch, and maybe even the desire to get out there and deliver it as well. And so this is what today looks like, and this is what we can expect. We're going to look first of all at the importance of a 60-second pitch. When are we going to need it? Who might be asking for it? When do we need to be ready? All those sorts of things. And as we'll sort of look at, there's not really many opportunities where we can get away with not having one. And then we'll talk about, well, maybe where those anxieties and those fears of pitching that so many people often have come from, and how we can combat that with some clear content rules for our pitch, what to leave out, what to put in, how many words, and so on. A really clear pitch structure so that no matter how far into your pitch are, if you lose your place, you can find yourself really easily, and how to deliver with confidence. Because no matter how good that content is and how clear that structure is, if the delivery is off, we're not going to make that meaningful connection with people that we need to move forward and seize opportunities. And then finally, as I said, to celebrate Global Entrepreneurship Week, we're launching our 10K challenge, where one individual will get their hands on £10,000 funding for their business. And so we'll talk about that at the end, and we'll send you off with that action to go away, write and record your pitches. And it goes without saying that everything that we cover today can be explored and gone into more detail on our Business Builder platform, which I'll talk a little bit more about. But if you're not familiar with Business Builder, that is our completely free virtual tool for new and established businesses to help yourselves upskill at your own time and at your own pace. So do make sure you take a look at that and check out all that it has to offer. We've got a lot of stuff on pitching, but we've got a lot of other resources on business resilience, mindset and development, customer and market validation, and so on and so on and so on. It's completely free and available to everybody, so do make sure you check it out. And so let's make a start with a question that quite often flummoxes a lot of people. When might you need a pitch, particularly a 60-second pitch? Now, typically the answer I get with this slide is in an elevator. I can't imagine where people get that answer from. But you're quite right. The 60-second pitch, quite often abbreviated to the elevator pitch, that seems to typically be where we get that answer from. But quite often what we find is that elevator pitch, we never know when that situation may arise. I mean, not many people are getting in lifts at this moment in time, but we never know when that situation may occur. It could just as easily happen on the street or in a coffee shop. The reality is that we never know who we're going to run into. We don't know who those people know. And so the reality is that if we haven't got a 60-second pitch, or if we aren't able to quickly and clearly explain what we do and who we are, the chances are we're going to be missing out on opportunities every single day. And so it's important that you've always got one, always in your back pocket. Now, what I'm not saying is that if you are sat in a coffee shop with somebody and somebody asks what you do, that you're going to jump up and give that Dragon's Den style 60-second pitch, because the chances are they'll finish their coffee and hightail it out of there very quickly. But by putting that structure together and by building that 60-second pitch, when you are in that more casual environment and somebody asks that question, you've still got their answers ready straight away, and you deliver really credible answers. And so having a 60-second pitch is great for an official environment. It's also good for a more casual one as well. So to answer the question, when might you need a pitch? You always need one. You never know when you're going to get asked for one. You never know when an opportunity is going to present itself. So always make sure you've got one in your back pocket. But just before we move forward and really dive into the meat of the session, I just want to sort of normalize another thing that I think contributes to the anxiety and the fear that a lot of people have with pitching, that it's their one and only chance to get all of this information out. We get conditioned by shows like, I don't know, The Apprentice or Dragon's Den or things like that, where it's one opportunity, it's one environment where all the information has to be exchanged, and that's it. And if you blow it, that's your chance. Now, whilst that makes great television, it's not necessarily the truth. And so when it comes to pitching, if we pile all that pressure on ourselves that we've got to get all of this information out in a really short space of time, it doesn't make for a great pitch. It makes for a very garbled delivery, and it makes for a very nervous business owner or entrepreneur. Whereas actually the reality is that whenever somebody meets somebody in an elevator or in a very, very quick conversation, the best outcome is that other individual going, do you know what, that sounds really interesting. We need to have a chat about that. Why don't we set up a meeting? And that is really the best success criteria you should aim for when you're writing a 60-second elevator pitch. Not to raise that £1 million investment, not to get that person on board in your company, but to have another conversation. Very rarely is that £1 million raised off a 60-second pitch, but the conversation that the pitch led to, and maybe even the conversation after that, is what led to that investment. And so if you get another conversation, another chat, a formal meeting booked in off your 60-second pitch, it has worked. And so hopefully that reduces some of the anxiety that a lot of people tend to feel around pitching, that it's their one and only shot and it's got to contain everything. Not really. It's the movie trailer of your business, and it's designed to get you that second conversation, most importantly of all. And so when it comes to creating that pitch, we know that we've got to get another conversation. We've got to get that second conversation with somebody. And so to do that, we'll break the pitch down into 3 key areas: content, structure, and delivery. Now, as we've said, delivery we'll come on to, but let's take care of content and structure first. And to begin with content, what to leave out, what to leave in. Well, the first and most obvious question is, well, how many words should we be looking for in a 60-second pitch? 60 seconds doesn't sound like an awful lot of time. Human beings, we can talk quite quickly, but actually we want to make sure that we give anybody that may be listening the chance to understand us. And so for that reason, the first content rule of 3 is there's no more than 150 words in your 60-second pitch. 150 words should be the maximum. And so if you're writing your pitch in Word later today or later this week, or Google Docs or whatever you may use, keep the word count close at hand. It won't look like a lot on the page in front of you, but 150 words is 2.5 words a second, and that's plenty. Any more than that, we run the risk of speaking too quickly or giving people information overload, which ultimately, if you've ever been in that scenario, you're just going to switch off. That is not the way to get that second conversation. You want to keep people engaged. You want people to understand every word that you say. And so 150 words as a maximum is a great way to protect against that. So that's the first content rule, 150 words. The next content rule is the 5-year-old test, or to keep it nice and simple. Now, this sounds really, really strange, but the fact of the matter is that you cannot guarantee that anybody that you speak to will have the same level of knowledge or the same level of interest in what you're speaking about as you do. You can't assume that. The chances are that you may run into somebody that has no knowledge of what it is that you do or the industry you operate within, but they can open doors for you. But the only way they're going to be able to open doors for you is if they understand enough about what you do. And so acronyms or abbreviations or jargon that may be second nature to you, and certainly from my perspective within the bank here, there's a lot of abbreviations and so on, but if I were to use them with you, you wouldn't know what they meant. And if that was the case, then the chances are you'd switch off or you'd feel alienated by me or whatever it may be. And that's not the outcome that you want from your 60-second pitch. So strip away those acronyms, abbreviations, make your pitch as understandable to everybody. And that means that it's likely to be impactful or open those doors, get you those second conversations more of the time. And so when you're thinking about those 150 words you've got, think about how you would use them to explain either yourself or your business to a 5-year-old. That's a really, really good way. So 150 words, nice and simple. Would a 5-year-old understand your business from your 60-second pitch? If not, it's probably not done just yet. And then the final one is the use of language. In 150 words, you can't add lots and lots of waffle in there. That's an understandable one. But equally, you can't put words like these in either. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but all these kinds of words, they lack conviction. They trigger doubt. And if you're triggering doubt from a 60-second pitch, then the chances are that the person that's listening to you is not going to feel like parting with their cash or their time or whatever resource it is to support you, because they're not going to get a sense that you are in control of what it is that you're talking about. And so whilst you absolutely cannot and should not lie in a 60-second pitch, quite the reverse, it has to be truthful and representative of you. Make sure that you are distributing what you have to say with nice, clear, confident language. Now, a great example of this that I hear quite regularly when I'm sort of reviewing pitches is there'll be a business and they'll say, we'll hopefully raise some angel investment in the middle of the year, and we'll probably take our product to market in January. Hopefully, probably. What those words don't convey is certainty or conviction, or that that individual is in control. And if they just use the words, we are actively raising angel investment with a view to taking our product to market in January, they haven't told me anything different. They haven't overpromised. They haven't lied. They've used confident language that makes me, the observer, feel like, okay, they're not where they want to be yet, but they are in control of where they're going. And so those are the 3 content rules. 150 words max, nice and simple language so that it's as open and applicable to everybody as possible, and nice, confident language as well that portrays the sense of control and that you are a credible individual to be invested in. And that's it for content. Now we'll move on to structure. Now, structure is really important. You've got that 150 words. It's nice and simple. You're happy with that, nice and confident language, but how do you structure them? And this is where individuals tend to sort of come a cropper. A big part of the anxiety around pitching is, well, what if I mess up? Because we put that pressure on ourselves that this is our one and only chance, compound that by the fact that human beings tend to want to be liked, and then the fear of messing something up and looking stupid is enough to send people running for the hills. And so this structure that we're going to go through now, I mean, we must have been through it with 20,000 entrepreneurs over the last 5 years or so, but it allows you to put the pitch into 6 building blocks or so that allow you to not only retain it, but also deliver it for maximum impact, keeping people's attention all the time. And that keeping people's attention is the first thing I want to focus on. Because whether it's right or wrong, fair or unfair, I think it's fair to say, no pun intended, that you are not guaranteed an audience when you're pitching. It would be great if we were, but you are not guaranteed an audience. Picture yourself the last time you went to a networking breakfast or any kind of networking event for that matter, before lockdown and we were all confined to barracks. Think about that last time. And imagine if people were pitching. Quite often those meetings will start with 20 people pitching. Imagine you were number 20 of that, and the previous 19 pitches were weak or not engaging. Just think about how that room's likely to be feeling. They're likely to just be like, oh, please let this end, swirling their orange juice, making notes, checking their phone, but absolutely engaged in anything other than you and your pitch. And that's really unfair, because you might have something really, really important to say or really advantageous. And so previous pitches or previous circumstances may mean that your audience is not engaged. And so the way that you start a pitch has to look to engage them for a number of reasons. One, because of that and what's come before, but equally because, as we know, the subconscious human mind takes about 7 seconds to form an opinion of you. So for those of you that formed an opinion of me about 13 minutes ago that wasn't so great, I'm ever so sorry. I've got about 20 minutes left to go. But it takes about 7 seconds. And so you want to try and combat that. You want to try and get people's attention. Those that are making notes, you want to get them to look up. Those that are looking at their phones, you want to get them to put it down. And so the one surefire way to make sure that you do that is that we hook them in with something really engaging. We grab their attention and we don't let go. And the way that we absolutely don't do that is by starting a pitch with, hi, I'm Josh from Royal Bank Business Builder. Because at this point, very few people care about that. Who I am, where I'm from. We haven't done enough to earn their attention yet. And so a hook is really, really important. As the name would suggest, you're looking to hook them in, get them to look up, engage with you, nothing else. And so whatever you say It needs to be designed to grab attention. Some people I've seen, they'll shout or they'll jump on a piece of furniture or whatever as a shock tactic, because let's face it, you're going to look up at that. But quite often we see interesting statistics used as well. And so whatever it is, obviously, yes, it needs to be tied in with what you're about to say, but have some fun with it. A hook, it could be funny, it could be startling, it can be shocking, as the name suggests, but really think about, how am I going to hook these individuals in so that they want to listen to me? Now, a couple of great examples that I've seen of that over the past few years. There was a hospitality business that specialized in containers so that people couldn't walk off with hotel shampoo. And so their hook was, Britain steal 400 million gallons of hotel shampoo each year. Now, that's engaging for two reasons. Because one, I dread to think how many Olympic-sized swimming pools 400 million gallons of shampoo would fill. But let's face it, who hasn't stolen hotel shampoo over the years? I should imagine that my bathroom cabinet is full of it. Not that I'm admitting that, obviously. But who hasn't done that? And so immediately you form a humorous connection with the room, but also quite a startling one. And because it's so left field from what people expect to hear from a pitcher, they look up and they engage. You've then got their attention to move forward. The second best one I ever saw, or actually probably the best one, was from a business based in Glasgow. Now they recycle plastic and turn it into barriers to go over the sides of ships to stop them being boarded in sort of dangerous waters around the world. And when they were pitching, their hook was they got up in front of the room, investors, whatever it was, and said, "Hi, I'm Steve and I fight pirates for a living." Now, I don't know about you, but if somebody tells me that they fight pirates, they have my undivided attention, accompanied by the Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack playing in my own mind. And so I'm going to listen to that person. And so with both of those, it had the absolute desired effect that people look up, a bit of bewilderment, like, what did you just say? But they're listening, they're engaged, they're not on their phones, they're not making notes, they're not swirling their orange juice or whatever it is that they're doing. They are looking at that person, ready to engage. Now, you've worked really, really hard to get that attention. An audience that wasn't going to listen to you, you've got them now. That subconscious 7 seconds, now you've beaten that. You've worked hard, you've used some of the precious 150 words in your pitch. And so what you do next is really important. And I have seen again that people will work really, really hard to hook people in and then just tell them their name and where they come from after that. The best way to keep people's attention is you hook them in, and then next you tell them the problem that you solve. Go straight in and define the problem. Now, a quick word of warning on this section and the next section. This is where entrepreneurs tend to be very, very passionate and very, very knowledgeable about what it is that they're doing. And so you can wax lyrical, you tend to go off on a tangent because you're passionate about what it is that you're doing. But remember, you've only got 150 words for your whole pitch. And so for this section and the next, you need to be working on the basis of about 30 to 35 words for each section. And so you've hooked people in. Now tell me the problem. First things first, tell me what the problem is. What is that problem? Next, tell me who has it. So your main customer segment, but who has that problem? And then most importantly of all, and so often overlooked, tell me how that person feels as a result of having that problem. This is what the problem is. This is who has it. This is how they feel. Remember, you're only trying to have a second conversation with somebody. And so that high level of information is enough, provided that you're really, really clear on each of those points. So what's the problem? Who has it? And how do they feel as a result? That last one is so important, because if your target market is sat in your audience, you want them to be able to go, "Oh, it's like they're talking to me." And if they're not, you still want that room to engage and go, "God, yeah, I can feel that as a problem, actually." That's what you want to get to. So what's the problem? Who has it? How do they feel as a result? Next, we want to move on to the solution. So you've told me the problem that you solve. Now, again, 3 very simple points. What is your solution, or what's your innovation? Why is it different? And fundamentally, why should people come to you? Again, so 3 really simple points for the problem, 3 really simple points for the solution. What's the solution? What's different about it? And why should people come to you? Now, over both of those, if you work on the basis of 10 words per bullet point, that's 60 words, plus say 10 for your hook, you're 70 words in. almost halfway through your word count and you're halfway through your pitch. And so the reason that I really, really caution you to check yourselves when you're writing this is because this is where business owners tend to throw in lots of features and benefits, and it has this and it does this, and this is really exciting because, and it is not to discredit any of that, but all of that great stuff can come out in the second conversation that this pitch gets you. So keep it nice and simple at this point. You want people to have enough information to make a decision of, am I interested in this and can I help this person out? That's all you're looking to do. And so at this point, you've hooked people in, you've told them the problem that you solve, you've told them how you solve that and why you're different. At this point, a very, very quick introduction is probably worthwhile, just a name and a title, just to follow the solution statement. But what's important is that you stick to your word count as much as possible because you've still got a lot of very, very important information to get through. And that starts with the opportunity. Yeah, okay, you've talked a great game around the problem that you solve and how you solve it, but now we've got to start demonstrating your credibility beyond the idea and thinking about the size and the scale of the opportunity that's at work. Now, there's a number of different ways to do this, and these are all just indicators. But fundamentally, now that you've explained the problem and the solution, you're now looking to really hammer home the size of the opportunity for whoever is in front of you. Now, a great way to do that is talking about the market size. That's a great place to start because that demonstrates to your audience that you understand exactly where your business is positioned. And so whether it's a £500 billion global industry that you want 0.1% of, or it's a £2 million cottage industry that you want 30% of. There's no right or wrong necessarily, but it demonstrates that you've done your research and you've got a credible view of where you want your business to sit. Numbers in general are a great source of credibility, to be honest with you. And so whether that's, sales to date, onboarded your first customer, your 100th or your 1000th customer, achieved a certain level of turnover or net profit, whatever it may be, again, they're all great and very, very convenient demonstrators of credibility. So really think about the kind of numbers that you want to reference to do that. Next, we'll talk about traction to date. Traction to date is really, really important because it covers so many things. Now, just quickly here, because I'm about to launch off a few different options, I'm not saying with any of this that you've got to include it all. The size, the word count for your opportunity section is probably 40 words max. And so you've got to be careful with how much you use. But traction, to give you that kind of element, you could think, well, have you won any awards for a business? Have you had any industry recognition? Have you commissioned any research reports with universities or governing bodies and so on and so on? They're all elements of traction. Onboarding your first customer is an element of traction, and so on and so on. So really, really think about, and I get this a lot from early stage businesses, that they don't really feel like they've got any traction to make. But even just registering a business, being part of an accelerator program, there's always elements of traction to evidence. So market size, numbers, any kind of numbers, turnover, finances, and so on, traction like awards, they're all great ways to demonstrate the opportunity. The final one I want to very briefly touch on is risks. 4 or 5 slides ago, I said to you, nice, confident language, nothing that's going to trigger doubt. And so risks could really juxtapose that. But actually what we mean here, and particularly if you are going and raising any kind of financial investment, covering off risks is a great way to demonstrate that you understand where your business sits. And that's really important because it will demonstrate to an investor this is a realistic individual that does not view the world through rose-tinted glasses, but they really, really understand where they sit. And so to give you an example, if you were to say, we currently have 2 very, very close competitors. Whilst we have a lead in the market, if we don't find investment in a timely fashion, we could sacrifice our market lead. That really demonstrates to an investor, okay, this individual knows exactly where they fit and they are completely honest about the challenges that they face. And so whilst I wouldn't necessarily include risks if you're pitching to a networking event, if you are going for investment, bear in mind that quite often risks is a good way to demonstrate opportunity. The penultimate section is great because if you're on your own in the business at the moment, this is your opportunity to talk about you. But fundamentally, whoever is delivering the pitch, this team section is going to focus more on them. Now, this goes back to the age-old saying of people buy from people, and it's true. If you don't make a connection with the people that you're pitching to, then it's not impossible to move forward, but it is a lot more difficult, it's fair to say. And so covering off who you are and why you're there is really important. Now, there's no necessarily right or wrong way to do this. And so whether you've got 25 years experience in an industry and you've just decided to set up your business, that's a perfect example. If you have a master's or a bachelor's or a PhD in the area that you're now setting up a business, that's a great way to do it too. But it could just as easily be that you had a particular experience and you want to make sure that nobody else ever feels like that again. And that's just as valuable, that's just as viable as any of the previous two options. What's important is that your audience is going to want to understand, well, who are you, what are you to the business, and what qualifies you to be there. Now, if you do have a team, you will need to cover off exactly who's in it. You don't need to go into the same level of detail, but covering off the positions that you've got in place, how long you've had that team for, that again demonstrates and gives people that ability to understand sort of the size, scale, and realities of the business. And then finally, that third point on the slide there, what does the future of the team look like? I am denied about including this one, but again, it's really, really useful if you're going for financial investment. Stands to reason that a portion of that investment is going to be allocated to expanding your team. So talking about who your next hire is, or your first hire if you're on your own, is really useful if you're going for that financial investment. So team, who are you? What qualifies you to be there? What does the rest of your team look like? This section, probably only 25 words. So again, you haven't got time to reel off a personal bio or anything like that. And then finally, the ask. Now, this is a section that is so often overlooked by individuals, particularly at networking events or things like that. But if we think back to Dragon's Den for a moment, it's that crucial bit at the end of, I'm looking for £100,000 for 10% equity in the business. That's a classic ask, okay? But it can be so much more three-dimensional than that. Because fundamentally, if you have delivered a great hook and you've delivered a pitch and people are still engaged with you, at the end of your 60-second pitch, you have the power to ask that room for whatever it is that your business needs most. And so whether that's access to funding, whether that's feedback on your pitch, whether that's introductions to customers, you miss that opportunity if you don't take it. Now, in this country in general, we tend to get a bit sort of shy about doing that, or we don't tend to like asking for help. But the fundamental thing is that more often than not, when we ask for things like this, they are given. So make sure that you really think about, whenever you're delivering a pitch, what am I most likely to get out of this audience? And whilst your pitch will change over time, as you change over time, your ask will change every single time you deliver the pitch. And so when you know you're going into that environment, make sure you ask the question, what's the most valuable thing I could offer or ask for from this environment? And as a word of warning, we see a lot of people waste that ask by saying, please, like my business on Facebook or follow us on Instagram. And whilst I completely appreciate that a social media following is important, very important, that can't be the most important thing your business needs. So always make sure you've got a firm ask at the end of your pitch. And so that's the pitch structure: your hook, your problem, your solution, the opportunity, the team, and the ask. Seems like an awful lot for 60 seconds and 150 words. And I know that, and I appreciate that. And I will give you an example in just a couple of moments around what it should be looking, sounding, and feeling like. But just as a suggestion, and as we sort of start to wrap up and head towards the delivery section and the conclusion of this session, when you sit down to write your own pitch later on this afternoon or later this week or whenever it may be, start with the problem. Write the problem, the solution, the opportunity, the team, and the ask first. Because what I so often see is after a session like this, people will write a hook at the top of a piece of paper and they'll sit there and they'll just hear either I fight pirates or Britain steal 400 million gallons of hotel shampoo. And they're good pitches. And so we tend to get frustrated when we can't think of one that's like that. And then the rest of the pitch never gets written. Your hook is something that will come to you when you're making breakfast tomorrow, or you're doing a load of washing or watching TV. It will come. What's going to get you that second conversation is the content of the problem down. So get that down first, and the hook will start to slot into place, just as a suggestion. And so that's it for the structure. Now, as it comes to delivery, as we've said, doesn't matter how good your content is, doesn't matter how good your structure is, if your delivery is off, the chances are that you're not going to form that more emotional connection with who you're listening to, and they're not likely to maintain their attention with you. And so just before we go into sort of our top tips for delivery and a really clear delivery, I just want to share with you my example 60-second pitch. I'm very, very lucky to look after the Business Builder program across the UK. And when I am regularly talking to individuals or going to networking events when we used to, be able to leave this room, I'll give you the pitch that I would regularly deliver. Only 40% of businesses will make it past year 5. The problem is there isn't that abundance of free, impartial support for people to upskill and feel confident. And so they feel isolated, often lonely, and regularly wind their businesses up. The Royal Bank Business Builder is an online virtual tool for new and established businesses where they can upskill at their own pace, surrounded by other entrepreneurs or on their own. It's been going for about 15, 16 months and has supported over 10,000 businesses. And wider Royal Bank entrepreneurship has supported over 20,000 businesses and created over 8,000 jobs for the economy. Hi, I'm Josh Winfield, Project Manager for the Business Builder program. Over the last 5 years, in general, we've supported over 25,000 businesses, contributed over 8,000 jobs to the UK economy, and raised a cumulative £250 million in investment. We're a team of 30 qualified business coaches that really look to work one-on-one with you or help to create our online content to support you in your own home environment. And my ask of you is that if you or anybody that you know is looking to set up a business and would like some support, please introduce yourself to me because I'll be happy to have a chat afterwards. Now, I realised that I got a bit tongue-tied in the middle of that, which is absolutely sod's law, but hopefully you could see the structure at the very least and the confident language used there. Probably a little bit over 150 words, probably a little bit over 60 seconds, if I'm honest with you, but fundamentally, hopefully that gave you a sense of being able to follow the structure, hear the content at work, and get a sense of what you should be aiming for. And so now we'll come into delivery, the final element. And there's one real golden rule when it comes to delivery, and it's this, that it's a performance, but it's not an act. And what we mean by that is actors spend their entire life playing other people, mostly. There are some actors that just play themselves, but most actors spend their lives playing other people. Whereas performers, like singers or musicians or comedians or whatever it is, they have to rehearse, and they have to rehearse and rehearse and rehearse until it's really slick. It's exactly the same with a 60-second pitch. If we don't rehearse, then the structure of a pitch can feel a little bit like when a toddler's learning to read and there's an indefinite pause between each line because they're not quite confident. That's exactly how a pitch can come across if it's not well rehearsed, just like a performer would be. And so my suggestion or my challenge to you guys is as you write your pitch and you start to put that structure down, get away from the paper as much as possible. Get away from those notes. Because there's a surefire thing that if I'd read my pitch to you instead of giving that example just then I can follow every word. I'm not going to make a mistake. But equally, you're not going to engage with me because I'm going to be looking at that. You're going to switch off and you're not going to take in what I have to say. So really, really make sure that you get away from your notes as quickly as possible. Your bedroom mirror, your bathroom mirror, your smartphone camera, they're your best friends so that you understand how you look as well as how you sound. And that's really important because if there's anything in your pitch that you don't truly believe or that you don't deliver well, your body language will betray you much, much more quickly than your words will. So make sure you get that rehearsal in there. It's really important. Now, 60 seconds, it doesn't sound like a lot, but as we just showed from that example, it is possible to get all those words easily into that time. But when we're nervous, as people often will be, or a bit anxious, we'll get through that 150 words much, much quicker than 60 seconds, more like 30. The only problem is that nobody's going to take it in and nobody's going to have that second conversation with you. And so a great way to protect against that is, yes, rehearsal, but equally, the first time you find yourself in that situation, take a nice big deep breath in. Nothing dramatic, nothing like Whitney, you don't need to do that. Just a nice big deep breath in. And it is amazing what that will do. It'll raise your entire body to begin with. So you'll speak a little bit more clearly and a bit more loudly. But it will also give you a nice, even tempo to get your words out. It will ensure that you speak slowly enough so that people engage with you and you'll use that 60 seconds up really nicely. But the biggest thing by a mile, with all the pitch, the biggest success that you get out of a pitch is if you are yourself. In other words, you use language that you would use every day. If you would never use the word onomatopoeia, don't put the word onomatopoeia in your pitch. If you are a funny person, then you can write a funny pitch. But if you're not, please don't try, because it's going to come across as disingenuous. Every single person, regardless of their demeanor, mannerisms, your pitch will be special because it sounds like you. But if you write it to sound like somebody else, you will have the opposite effect. So whatever you do, make sure that you take time to get rehearsing your pitch as much as possible. Don't get too comfortable with notes or cue cards. It's a reflection of you. And particularly in those coffee shop situations, the way that you have those really, really clear answers is if you've got that kind of really structured 60-second pitch down and really clear to deliver, then when you're sat on a comfy sofa with a coffee in hand and somebody asks what you do, those answers, those crucial bits are there, and you'll blow people away with what it is you have to say. And so, the action. Oh no, I've jumped the gun a bit there. The action. Now, over the next week, over Global Entrepreneurship Week, time to start writing your own pitch. Great place to start. Start by making a few bullet points for the problem and the solution. Remember, you've got those 6 points. What's the problem? Who has it? How do they feel? What's your solution? What's different? And why would I come to you? Start by bullet pointing those and you'll get yourself on a roll. And remember to write the hook last. But challenge yourself to have something that you're proud of. Maybe by Friday if you're watching this on Monday. If you're watching this on Friday, what about the other side of the weekend? But give yourself that action. Because what that will then feed into is our challenge. To celebrate Global Entrepreneurship Week, as I said, the Royal Bank are launching our 10K challenge, where we're aiming to teach 10,000 people to learn how to pitch. And one of those people is going to be lucky enough to receive £10,000 funding and 6 months one-to-one business coaching by our fantastic accelerator team. To get involved, all you need to do, first and foremost, write and record your 60-second pitch using the content, structure, and delivery methods that we've discussed today. Second of all, upload your pitch to YouTube. We'll be dropping in the comments a quick how-to guide to set all that up. If you've never done it before, it's super simple. But upload your pitch to YouTube and share the URL to that YouTube video with us by no later than the 30th of November. So 14 days time. Make sure that you send that URL to businessbuilder@rbs.co.uk. And we will then review all of those pitches and let every single person know whether they've made it to the second round by the 18th of December of this year. So write and record your pitch, upload it to YouTube, and send it to businessbuilder@rbs.co.uk by the 30th of November. We'll then notify all individuals whether they've been successfully making it to round 2 or not by the 18th of December. And a big selection criteria for the competition is that you've got to be registered for Business Builder 2. So if you haven't already, make sure that you get yourself registered. We'll be dropping a link to register in the comments below this video as well. Get yourself registered. It takes a couple of minutes, and take time to enjoy all of the materials that we have in there too. But just make sure that this competition is only available to those that are 16 and over and based in the United Kingdom. But that is it, super simple. So over the next week, take time to really think about that pitch, really put it down, get it comfortable with it, get under the skin of it. Make sure it's really reflective of you, because I'm so looking forward to reviewing those really personal pitches. So get it written, get it recorded, send it to us by the 30th, and we'll look forward to speaking with everybody a little later this year. But thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for listening to me this afternoon, this week, whenever you happen to be listening. Whatever happens within Global Entrepreneurship Week, make sure that you take time to step back, learn, relax, but most importantly, thank you for listening. Stay safe, and we'll speak to you soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.